In 1958, Buick unveiled a machine unlike anything they had ever built before. It was long, wide, drenched in chrome from front to rear, and carried a proud name, Buick Limited. This wasn't just the most luxurious car Buick had ever produced. It was the most expensive vehicle to ever wear the Tri-Shield badge. But strangely enough, just 1 year later, the Limited vanished completely from Buick's lineup. No official explanation, no successor, and hardly anyone remembered it. So what went wrong? Was it too luxurious or simply too bloated? Was it priced out of reach? Or had customers lost interest in a Buick pretending to be a Cadillac? The story of the 1958 Buick Limited isn't just about failure, it's a symbol of overconfidence from an industry that believed more chrome and more size could outshine any rival. Today, we take a look back at this dazzling yet short-lived luxury cruiser and uncover why it left Americans unimpressed after just 1 year. By the late 1950s, the American car industry was reaching its zenith. It was an era of optimism, booming consumerism, and daring designs. Automakers were not just building transportation, they were crafting symbols. Every car was a statement of social status, success, and belief in the American dream. General Motors stood as the undisputed leader. Its brand hierarchy was clearly defined. Chevrolet for the masses, Pontiac for the youthful, Oldsmobile for the aspiring middle class, Buick for those who had arrived, and Cadillac at the very top. Among them, Buick held the most delicate position. It had to offer luxury without stepping on Cadillac's toes. The year 1958 brought unexpected turmoil. A national recession hit hard, dragging down car sales across the board. Yet instead of scaling back, many automakers doubled down. They made cars longer, heavier, shinier with chrome. It became a competition in extravagance, as if visual excess could overpower economic reality. In this environment, Buick played its boldest card. They revived the legendary name Limited, last seen before World War II. After more than 20 years in slumber, Limited returned not just as a car. It came back as a declaration, a confident move saying Buick too deserved a place at the top. From the start, the Buick Limited made no attempt to be subtle. It was designed to turn heads, to demand attention, and to stand side by side with Cadillac in boldness. Buick offered only two body styles, a four-door sedan and a two-door coupe. No convertible, no wagon. Every choice aimed to project dignity, formality, and authority. Buick believed that in a time when consumers were torn between desire and caution, a car like the Limited could offer reassurance. The car was arguably the pinnacle of the more chrome the better design philosophy in American automotive history. From every angle, it exuded flamboyance and made no attempt to hide it. The front end was the first to overwhelm. A saw blade-style grille with hundreds of horizontal chrome bars stretched wide across the face. Stacked dual headlights emphasized its muscular presence and created a striking impression at night. The hood was as long as a ship's deck, crowned by Buick's Tri-Shield emblem, proudly placed at the tip. Its overall length exceeded 227 inches, nearly 19 feet, making the Limited one of the largest sedans in America at the time. The rear fenders curved into subtle wings, but unlike Cadillac's graceful fins, Buick's tail appeared heavy and awkward. All four wheel arches were wrapped in gleaming chrome, creating a unique visual effect but also adding to the body's cluttered look. Buick also adorned the Limited with numerous nameplates, gold-plated logos, and decorative trims, to the point where it became hard to tell what served a real purpose and what was just meant to draw attention. And that feeling did not stop at the exterior. Step inside, and you would find everything magnified by the same philosophy. The entire cabin felt like a display of extravagance. Seats were upholstered in genuine leather or high-end cordovan fabric, plush and thick like living room sofas. The dashboard was layered with large wall clock-style gauges outlined in gleaming chrome. Buttons and switches crowded the console, arranged in a spaceship-style layout that was popular at the time. Spaciousness was one of the car's strengths. Rear passengers could stretch out as comfortably as those in front. The car also featured every top-tier amenity for 1958, including air conditioning, a radio, vanity mirrors, and reading lights. However, all of those luxuries were overshadowed by a more pressing issue. Everything simply felt excessive. The Limited's interior was a textbook example of unrestrained luxury. But when there is no limit, luxury can easily turn into excess. And that did not only apply to the interior design, it also affected how the car behaved on the road. Beneath all the glamorous styling, the Buick Limited carried a powerful heart, one that reflected a philosophy centered more on smoothness than speed. The car was equipped with a V8 engine, displacing 364 cubic inches, part of Buick's renowned nailhead family. This engine produced around 300 horsepower and up to 400 pound-feet of torque, enough to move the over 5,000-pound vehicle with confident authority. Buick had no intention of making the Limited roar like a sports car. Instead, they paired the engine with the Dynaflow automatic transmission, famous for its silky smooth operation without any noticeable gear shifts. Drivers could feel the power rise evenly and gracefully, like piloting a battery-powered yacht across the asphalt. However, that smoothness came with a trade-off. The Dynaflow system was often criticized for its slow throttle response and lack of decisiveness when passing or accelerating quickly. As a result, the driving experience leaned heavily toward relaxation rather than excitement. Still, this engine fulfilled the mission Buick had in mind. Just enough power to take you far, and smooth enough to make you forget you are driving a machine that weighs nearly 2.5 tons. But Buick did not stop there. The 1958 Limited came equipped with a long list of features that went far beyond the standards of its era. All windows were power-operated. The front seat was adjustable in 6 directions using electric motors. The AM radio included a self-raising antenna and push-turn knobs that blended luxury and function. Higher trims featured vanity mirrors with dedicated lighting, individual reading lamps, and a zoned interior lighting system. Another highlight was the air conditioning system, a rarity even in Cadillacs of the same year. It had separate vents for each seating row, controlled by large metal knobs mounted in the center dashboard. Most notable was the optional AirPoise air suspension. When working properly, it made the car glide like it was floating on a lake. But even a small pressure leak could cause the suspension to drop completely within hours, a flaw that led many owners to replace it with traditional coil springs. The deeper issue was this: not everyone was willing to take such a risk on a Buick priced at or above Cadillac levels. The starting price for a Buick Limited sedan was around $5,100 United States dollars. The two-door coupe could reach $5,300. That was an exceptionally high price for the era, especially when compared to the Cadillac Series 62, which began at approximately $4,800. Buick believed customers would evaluate the car based on features and technological refinement, not just the nameplate. But the market thought differently. To many buyers, Buick was still the number 2, in the General Motors family. A Buick priced higher than a Cadillac simply felt hard to justify. Plenty of prospective buyers walked into showrooms impressed by the Limited's style and features, but left without signing anything, because in the end, it just wasn't a Cadillac. This was the fine line between ambition and brand identity. One Buick crossed, but without the results they had hoped for. Instead of elevating the brand image, the Limited highlighted the disconnect between Buick's aspirations and how the market actually perceived them. Buick dealers found themselves in an awkward position. They had been handed a flagship model, advertised as a technical marvel with unprecedented luxury, but they did not know who to sell it to. Loyal Buick customers felt the car was over the top, and those with the money to spend had already committed to Cadillac. In many showrooms, the Limited sat unsold for weeks. Dealers held events, offered discounts, even bundled it with promotions on other models, but the response was lukewarm. The polarizing design, high price tag, and limited media coverage turned the Limited into a showroom burden throughout 1958. In the end, only about 7,400 units were built, a disappointing number for what was meant to be a flagship. More importantly, it forced Buick to reassess its entire product strategy. Was it truly worth pursuing a segment that buyers were not yet ready to accept them in? This question did not apply only to the Limited, but to an entire era when Buick tried to climb the luxury ladder too quickly. In the case of the Limited, the failure was not rooted in any specific flaw of design or engineering. It came from Buick's misunderstanding of who they were and who they wanted to be at the wrong time. They assumed that a bigger, pricier, flashier vehicle could elevate them to Cadillac's level. But buyers were not so easily convinced. The year 1958 was a difficult one. With a recession underway, consumers shifted toward practicality. A car that looked imposing, cost more than expected, and came with high ownership costs was no longer an attractive proposition. Buick launched the Limited as if America were in a boom. But reality was far more cautious. Worse still, the Limited lacked a clear message. It did not inspire like Cadillac, did not offer practicality like Oldsmobile, and did not appeal to the masses like Chevrolet. The Buick Limited stood in between, and that in-between space is what caused it to be forgotten. But that does not mean it left no mark. On the contrary, the Limited stands as living proof of a turbulent chapter in American automotive history. A time when car makers raced towards size, chrome, and technology while forgetting one critical factor: consumer preferences were shifting. The Limited was the product of an era when direction was unclear. Buick stepped outside its comfort zone, but failed to define a new identity. And this car, unfortunately, became the perfect example of that disconnect. Yet, it is precisely that off-key uniqueness that gives the Limited a special place among collectors. With fewer than 8,000 units produced and only 1 year of existence, the Limited is now a strange but honest piece of American automotive history. Not everyone knows about it, but those who understand the value of rarity and the boldness of going against the grain often hold it in special regard. On the classic car market, the Limited is not an easy vehicle to sell. It is not associated with speed, fame, or pop culture. Yet its unconventional nature is exactly what makes it desirable to experienced collectors. A well-preserved Limited today is valued between $50,000 and $90,000 United States dollars. However, its worth depends not just on rarity, but on originality, factory colors, interior options, and especially the condition of complex systems like the air poise suspension. While it is not a car for casual collectors, the Limited is respected as a story told in steel and chrome. It reminds us of a time when America dreamed big and sometimes dreamed too far. The Buick Limited was not a great car, but it was a brave one, brave enough to challenge expectations, cross brand boundaries, and dream big during a time of uncertainty. Though it failed in sales, the Limited left a lasting impression in American automotive history. It reminds us that not every car is built to succeed, but every car tells a story. And sometimes, the most memorable stories are the ones tinged with failure. If you found the story of the Buick Limited interesting, leave a comment below. Where do you think Buick went wrong? Could a car like this have succeeded if it were launched at a different time? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next videos on rare, unusual, and forgotten cars in American history.